Have you ever tried so hard to give someone advice, only to watch them do the exact opposite the next day? Have you ever met a person who seems to know the right answer for everyone, yet somehow nobody around them actually grows? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a very common trap that hides behind good intentions. The trap of lecturing. The habit of correcting. The reflex of teaching people when they did not ask. And the strange result that often follows. The more someone loves to lecture, the harder it becomes for them to truly change anyone. This topic matters because it touches relationships, families, friendships, workplaces, and even the way we speak to ourselves. It also touches something spiritual and deep. The difference between wisdom and ego. The difference between compassion and control. The difference between helping someone grow and trying to make someone obey your idea of growth. I want to tell you a story, because this is not only a theory, it is a lived pattern. And if you listen carefully, you might notice you have been on both sides of it. Sometimes you have been the one lecturing. Sometimes you have been the one being lectured. Either way, the lesson is the same. Real change does not come from being pushed. Real change comes from being awakened. His name is Marcus. He was the kind of man people described as smart, responsible, and principled. He read a lot. He had strong opinions about health, money, relationships, and self-discipline. He believed life had a right way and a wrong way, and he was convinced that if people would just listen, they could avoid so much suffering. Marcus was not trying to be cruel. He was trying to help. That is what made it confusing. In his own mind, he was a good person doing a good thing. But something strange kept happening. The people around him did not improve. They avoided him. They stopped sharing their problems. They nodded politely, then disappeared. Some even became more stubborn, doing the opposite just to protect their pride. Marcus could not understand it. He would say, "I am literally telling them the solution. Why do they keep choosing pain?" He did not realize that information is not transformation. Most people do not change because they lack knowledge. They do not change because something inside them is afraid, attached, ashamed, or unready. And when you lecture them, you touch that fear. You threaten their autonomy. You trigger their defenses. You push them into resistance. The words might be correct, but the energy is wrong. The turning point began with someone Marcus loved deeply, his younger sister, Elena. Elena was talented, creative, and emotionally sensitive. She had a pattern of falling into messy relationships. She would meet someone intense, feel a rush, ignore red flags, then later feel heartbroken and confused. Marcus watched this happen again and again, and every time it happened, he felt anger rise inside him. Not only anger at the person who hurt her, but anger at Elena for repeating the same cycle. In his mind, it was simple. Choose better. Have standards. Use logic. Stop being naive. So when Elena called him crying one night after yet another breakup, Marcus felt that familiar urge to fix. He listened for a minute, then launched into a lecture. He told her she needed boundaries. He told her she was attracted to the wrong type. He told her she should focus on her career. He told her she needed therapy. He told her she was wasting time. His voice was firm. He believed he was being strong for her. Elena grew quiet. Marcus kept talking, thinking she was finally listening. Then Elena said softly, "I did not call you to be corrected. I called you because I feel like I cannot breathe." Marcus froze. He felt offended. In his mind, he had offered a rope, and she complained about the texture. He said, "I am trying to help you." If you do not want advice, what do you want? Elena hesitated, then said, I wanted you to be with me. I wanted you to care. I wanted to feel safe enough to tell the truth. Then she added a sentence that landed like a stone in Marcus' chest. When you lecture me, I feel like you love your opinions more than you love me. The call ended soon after. Marcus sat in silence, staring at the wall, feeling a mix of anger and shame. He wanted to say she was being unfair. He wanted to say she was too sensitive. He wanted to say that feelings did not change facts. But under all that, he felt something else, a quiet fear. What if he had been wrong about what helping means? Over the next few days, Marcus noticed something uncomfortable. Elena did not call again. She did not text. When she did show up at a family gathering, she was polite but distant. The closeness between them had shifted. Marcus thought, she is being dramatic. But a deeper part of him wondered, maybe she is protecting herself. This is where the spiritual lesson begins. People do not protect themselves from your facts. They protect themselves from your energy. Marcus began reflecting on his history. He remembered being a child in a strict home. The adults around him corrected constantly. Praise was rare. Mistakes were punished, sometimes with words, sometimes with coldness. The home was not necessarily loud, but it was tense. The lesson Marcus learned was clear. To be loved, be right. To be safe, be perfect. To avoid pain, control outcomes. So Marcus grew into a man who tried to control outcomes with words. Lecturing was his way of building safety. He did not lecture because he enjoyed it. He lectured because he was afraid of what happens when people choose badly. He was afraid of chaos. He was afraid of watching suffering he could not prevent. He was afraid of feeling helpless. And this is one of the hidden roots of lecturing. It is not wisdom. It is anxiety pretending to be wisdom. When you cannot tolerate someone else making their own mistakes, you try to take their life into your hands. Not physically, but emotionally. You push, you advise, you correct, you manage. You become the director of their choices. But the human soul does not grow under control. The human soul grows under awareness. Marcus started observing how people reacted to him. He noticed a pattern. When someone shared a problem, Marcus would immediately offer a solution. He did not ask if they wanted advice. He did not ask what they were feeling. He did not ask what they had tried. He did not ask what mattered to them. He jumped straight into instructions. And every time, something in the other person heightened. Their body language changed. Their eyes drifted. Their tone went flat. They said, yeah, you are right. Then they changed the subject. Marcus thought he was winning. He did not realize he was losing connection. Connection is the soil where change grows. Without connection, advice is just noise. Later that week, Marcus met his friend Jordan for coffee. Jordan was gentle and observant, the kind of person who listened more than he spoke. Marcus confessed what happened with Elena, expecting Jordan to agree that Elena was ungrateful. Jordan listened quietly, then asked a question that made Marcus uncomfortable. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be close? Marcus scoffed. Those are not opposites. Jordan said, sometimes they are. Marcus sat back, irritated. Jordan continued calmly. When someone is hurting, your lecture can feel like a verdict. It can sound like, you failed. Here is how to be better. Even if that is not your intention, that is what the nervous system hears. And when the nervous system hears judgment, it shuts down. People do not learn when they are bracing for impact. Marcus felt defensive. He said, but if I do not tell the truth, I am enabling them. Jordan nodded. Truth is important, but timing is also truth. Tone is also truth. Presence is also truth. There is a way to speak truth that opens a door, and a way to speak truth that slams it shut. Lecturing often slams it shut. That night, Marcus could not sleep. He kept replaying the phrase, "Tone is also truth." He had always believed truth was content, facts, logic, principles. But he had ignored a deeper layer. The heart can hear truth only when it feels safe. This is why lecturing fails. Lecturing tries to bypass the heart and force behavior. But behavior that is forced rarely lasts. It either creates rebellion, or it creates compliance without growth. The person might follow your advice temporarily, but they do not awaken. And without awakening, they return to old patterns. Awakening is an inner shift. It happens when someone sees their own cause and effect clearly. It happens when someone feels the cost of their pattern without being shamed for it. It happens when someone discovers their own reasons for change, not your reasons. Marcus began to study this more deeply, not as an academic topic, but as a mirror. He realized there were 3 reasons his lecturing did not work, and each reason pointed to a deeper practice. The first reason was that lecturing threatens autonomy. Human beings need to feel they have choice, even if your advice is correct. If it arrives as an order, it triggers resistance. The inner voice says, "Who are you to tell me?" Even if the person knows you are right, they do not want to feel controlled. This is not childishness. This is dignity. When you lecture, you often take the role of higher position, the teacher, the superior, the one who sees clearly. The other person is placed below, the student, the confused one, the wrong one. That hierarchy can feel humiliating. And when people feel humiliated, they do not transform, they protect. The second reason was that lecturing skips emotion. Most problems people struggle with are not logic problems. They are emotional problems, addictions, unhealthy relationships, procrastination, money habits, anger, avoidance. People often know what to do. They do not do it because something inside them is hurting or afraid. When you lecture, you treat the symptom as if it is a simple choice. But under the choice there is usually a wound. Fear of abandonment, fear of failure, shame, loneliness, trauma, unmet needs. Without addressing that, your instructions do not land. It is like telling someone to stop coughing while ignoring the infection. The third reason was that lecturing often hides ego. This one is hard to admit, but it is crucial. Sometimes we lecture because we want to feel needed. Sometimes we lecture because we want to feel superior. Sometimes we lecture because we want to be seen as wise. Sometimes we lecture because we cannot tolerate our own helplessness. Sometimes we lecture because we are trying to control life. Even when we love the person, ego can slip in quietly. Ego can disguise itself as concern, and the person on the receiving end can feel it. They might not articulate it, but they feel it. They feel that the lecture is not only for them, it is also for your self-image. This is why lecturing creates distance. People do not want to be used as a stage for someone else's sense of wisdom. Marcus felt embarrassed as he saw these layers. He remembered times he corrected people in public, times he gave advice without being asked, times he spoke with impatience, times he acted as if he knew best. He also remembered the feeling of being lectured as a child, the tightness in his chest, the desire to disappear, the resentment. He realized he was repeating the same pattern, passing it forward. This is karma in a practical sense, not mystical, psychological, relational, cause and effect. when you were controlled. You learned control. When you were judged, you learned judgment. When you were corrected constantly, you learned to correct constantly. And then you wonder why relationships feel tense. To change karma, you change the cause. You change the pattern. Marcus decided to practice a new way of speaking. Not a trick, but discipline. The next time someone shared a problem, he would do 3 things. He would ask permission before giving advice. He would reflect emotion before offering solutions. He would focus on questions rather than instructions. He did not think of it as being soft. He thought of it as being skillful. A week later, Elena called again. Marcus' heart jumped. He wanted to apologize immediately, but he also feared making it worse. Eleanor sounded tired. She said, "I have been thinking a lot. I feel ashamed about my choices." Marcus felt the old urge to lecture. He wanted to say, "Yes, you should feel ashamed." He wanted to say, "You keep repeating this." He wanted to say, "I told you." But he remembered the new practice. He breathed slowly and said, "That sounds heavy. Do you want me to just listen? Or do you want my thoughts?" There was a pause on the line. Ilana sounded surprised. She said, "Can you listen first?" Marcus said, "Yes." So he listened. He asked gentle questions. He said, "What do you feel right now?" He said, "What are you afraid of?" He said, "What part of you keeps choosing these people?" Ilana cried. She admitted she felt unworthy of stable love. She admitted she was addicted to intensity because calm felt unfamiliar. She admitted she feared being alone more than being mistreated. Marcus felt tears rise in his own eyes. He realized his sister did not need a lecture. She needed a safe space where her Ruth could breathe. After she spoke, she said quietly, "I do not want to live like this anymore." That sentence was not prompted by Marcus' advice. It came from her own awakening. Only then did Marcus offer a gentle thought. He said, "I believe you deserve steady love, and I believe you can learn new patterns. If you want, we can think together about what support would help you." Elena exhaled. She said, "Thank you. That is all I needed." After the call, Marcus sat in silence. He felt something new. He felt connected. He also felt humbled. His sister changed more in that one conversation than she had changed after years of his lecturing. Not because he finally found the right words, but because he finally offered the right presence. Presence is the beginning of compassion. And compassion is not pity. Compassion is seeing someone suffering and wanting to relieve it without controlling them. Compassion respects autonomy. Compassion listens. Compassion makes room. Compassion does not rush to be the hero. This is why wise teachers throughout history often spoke less than people expected. They did not throw instructions at every student. They watched timing. They watched readiness. They used silence when silence was the teaching. Marcus also began noticing something else. His lecturing habit was hurting him too. It made him tense. It made him feel responsible for others. It made him carry burdens that were not his. It made him frustrated when people did not follow his advice. It made him resentful when he stopped lecturing. He felt lighter. He realized he had been trying to manage life to avoid feeling fear. He began practicing acceptance, not acceptance that approves of harmful behavior, but acceptance that recognizes reality. People learn on their own timeline. People change when they are ready. You can support, but you cannot control. This acceptance is also spiritual practice. It is humility before life. Humility does not mean passivity. It means you stop playing God in other people's lives. You stop trying to be the engine of their transformation. You become a companion, not a commander. This is also wise for your own peace, because if you attach your happiness to whether others follow your guidance, you will suffer constantly. You will feel disappointed, disrespected, ignored. You will become bitter. But if you attach your happiness to your own integrity, you become free. You can offer support with a clean heart. You can let go of outcomes. You can love without controlling. And that is how influence becomes real. Real influence is not pressure. It is example. When you live what you teach, people feel it. When you speak gently, people relax. When you listen deeply, people open. When you ask good questions, people discover their own answers. When you honor dignity, people trust. This is why the more someone loves to lecture, the harder it is to change anyone, because lecturing is often about control, and control kills trust. And without trust, growth cannot happen. Now, let us bring this closer to home. Have you ever been lectured by someone who claimed they were helping you, but you felt smaller afterward? That feeling matters. It does not mean they are evil. It means the method was wrong. The method was pushing. Pushing creates resistance. Now ask yourself an honest question. Do you ever lecture people you love? Do you do it when you feel anxious? Do you do it when you fear they will fail? Do you do it because you cannot tolerate their pain? Do you do it because their choices trigger your own wounds? If any of that is true, do not shame yourself. Shame will only harden you. Instead, practice awareness. Awareness is the beginning of awakening. The next time you want to lecture, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Maybe you feel fear. Maybe you feel helpless. Maybe you feel anger. Maybe you feel the need to be needed. Name it. Then ask, what does this person need right now? Maybe they need listening. Maybe they need comfort. Maybe they need space. Maybe they need permission to be imperfect. Maybe they need a question that helps them see. Then ask permission. Would you like advice? Or do you want me to listen? That one sentence can transform relationships because it returns control to the other person. It restores dignity. It creates safety. And safety is the soil where change grows. Now, there is one more deep lesson here. Sometimes the person who lectures the most is the person who cannot change themselves. This is another hidden truth. It is easier to correct others than to face your own patterns. It is easier to tell someone else to be disciplined than to sit with your own cravings. It is easier to advise someone else to be calm than to confront your own anger. It is easier to teach someone else about boundaries than to admit where you are still afraid to set them. Lecturing can become a distraction from inner work. So, if you notice you lecture often, consider this with gentleness. What part of you is trying to avoid looking inward? What part of you would rather be the teacher than the student? What part of you feels safer when you are superior? That is not an accusation. It is an invitation, because real wisdom begins when you become teachable. Teachable means you stay humble. You keep learning. You keep practicing. You accept that life is your teacher too. When you become teachable, your words soften naturally because you stop speaking from ego. You start speaking from experience. And people can feel that difference. They may still not follow your advice, but they will feel respected. They will feel safe. And that safety might be the first step toward their awakening. Now, let us close the story with Marcus. Months later, Marcus noticed Elena was making different choices. She was not perfect, but she was more aware. She began therapy. She started journaling. She began slowing down before entering relationships. She started asking herself why she was drawn to intensity. She started building self-respect. Marcus supported her, but he did not control her. He asked questions. He listened. He celebrated small progress. He held boundaries when needed. He remained steady. One day, Ivana said something that made Marcus smile. "You know what changed everything? You stopped trying to fix me. And when you stopped trying to fix me, I could finally see myself." That is the paradox. When you stop forcing someone to change, you create the space where they can choose to change. And choice is the doorway to real transformation. That is why this topic is not only about communication. It is about compassion. It is about karma. It is about the kind of energy you bring into a relationship. If you bring control, you create resistance. If you bring presence, you create openness. If you bring judgment, you create hiding. If you bring compassion, you create honesty. Honesty is where healing begins. So I want to leave you with a simple reflection. The next time someone you love is struggling, ask yourself what you want to give them. Do you want to give them a lecture? Or do you want to give them a safe moment where their truth can breathe? If you give them safety, you give them the greatest gift. The gift of being seen without being shamed. The gift of being human without being corrected. The gift of learning without fear. And that gift can change a life. Now I would love to hear from you. Have you ever been lectured by someone who meant well but pushed you away? Or have you ever realized you were lecturing someone and it made them shut down? Share your story in the comments. When we speak honestly, we help each other wake up. If you want more long-form teachings like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video so it reaches the people who need it. And if you want to support this work and keep these long videos possible, consider joining the membership. Your support helps build a community where wisdom is not used as a weapon, compassion is not used as control, and real change begins with awakening. Life gets noisy. Work, stress, expectations. Sometimes we lose touch with the quiet part of ourselves. Bracelet isn't just an accessory. It's a small reminder that you deserve peace. You deserve moments of stillness. You deserve to hold on to your inner balance. If one of these bracelets speaks to your heart, you'll find the purchase link in the description below. And even more auctions available on our channel's shop page. Pick home the one that feels right.